Hello and welcome to another episode of the Runners Roundtable. We're season 5, it's hot takes, and we're talking about topics that have been burning a hole in my mind. And I'm just so grateful people say yes to talk to me about the topics that I want to talk about. And today I have Robyn Godfrey here with me, and we are going to talk about strength and aging, particularly for women in this episode. I'm really, really excited to dive deep into this because my relationship with strength training has changed a lot over the course of my running career. And I'd say probably only within the last year that I've really, really gotten serious about prioritizing strength training. So before we dive deeper into the topic, Robyn, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us, where are you with running right now?
Well, it's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Robyn Godfrey. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, along the coast. And I was a late in life runner. I didn't start running until my late 40s. And I loved tennis and being outside, playing golf, things like that, but didn't take up running until much later in life. And with that came some good things. I had pretty fresh legs to start off with. But as we age, things start to change in our bodies. But I had always been a gym rat, so I kind of enjoyed working out. But when it came to running, it kind of overtook my life, like it does a lot of people's lives. And I had to really focus in on doing the extras to keep myself strong and able to run. So I'm super excited to be here and talk about strength training today.
Yeah, are you training for anything running wise right now?
I am not specifically. I do a lot of pacing of local half marathons in and around the area. So I am running a half marathon here in Wilmington the end of February. So kind of working on that, and just I love to help other runners reach their goals. And so yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And I got a trail race later in the year that is always challenging to do trails.
Listen, trails are they're a different animal on the
Mhm.
body and a
For sure.
different thing entirely on the mind. So I I applaud you. And the pacing is something that I pacers are so important. Pacers are
Mhm.
so important, and not all pacers are made the same, right? Not everyone paces in the same way, but pacers are so important, especially for people who are doing the distance for the first time or people who are trying to regain their confidence with the distance, and having someone else make those decisions about pacing and how fast do we go through the water station, how slow, like all that stuff is, it's really, really important. So thank you for doing the pacing that you do.
Thank
To
you.
get to the topic that we're going to be discussing today, can you tell us a little bit about strength training? And you said you were always a gym rat. So did you strength train prior to getting into running, or what, just I guess what was like your workout routine
Mhm.
prior to running? How did it shift once you started running? And then where is it right now?
So I'll date myself here. I started going to the gym when aerobics was the thing, right? So everybody was in these leotards and their leg warmers, and they would go to a Bally's Fitness or somewhere like that and do like these jumping down aerobics for an hour, get all sweaty, and that's how I started, and I loved it. It was so much fun. I saw the weight equipment in the gym, but I was always a little intimidated by it. I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do with all of that. I had a friend in college that was a competitive weightlifter, and he started showing me some things to do. And I was always very gangly and skinny when I was young. I didn't have any muscle tone. I was really clumsy. And he started showing me a few things, and I kind of thought, well, this is interesting. This is different. And I started to get a little bit more muscle tone and not as clumsy. And so I just kind of stuck with it. And I went to the gym a lot through my 20s and 30s, just doing things like step aerobics. And, we'd add some weights, those little colorful dumbbells sometimes. And then it turned into doing more intense workouts as after I started running, actually. I had a knee injury when I was in high school that just kind of followed me the rest of my life. And strengthening and keeping my legs strong and my knees strong kind of became a priority. There wasn't really anything that could be done surgery wise to help my knee issues. So I started doing a lot more strength training. And I even started going into Olympic lifting with a friend of mine here in town and really enjoyed that. I found it really challenging, flipping tires, stuff like that. Super challenging. But I also noticed in my running that it really helped me improve my posture and also
Mm-hmm.
my recovery time. My recovery time was so much better after getting more into strength training. And I think so many people are worried that they're going to be putting too much weight on, or they might bulk up too much and become too heavy for running. And you really don't have to worry about that, especially if you're putting in the mileage and you're eating correctly. Strength training can really add so much to your running that you just don't realize until you're doing it. And it's hard. We all have very busy lives. We have kids, we've got dogs, we've got parents, and trying to fit it all in is the hardest part, right? So I just kind of developed a routine around that, and it's worked for me. So,
Yeah. Um, the strength training bit is so hard because I remember when I first started running. Well, first of all, I'll give everyone like my bit of history with it. I worked at a gym when I was in college, and even being in the gym, working in that environment, I never felt comfortable in the weight room, not
mm-hmm.
by myself. Like I would
Lots of
not
burly big
go.
guys in there.
Oh no, yeah, I would not. I would not. And I remember I would go up to like the third floor of the gym where nobody went, and that's where I would do a workout. Like no
Mhm.
one saw me. I was okay. Like the only people who knew I was there were my husband. He was my boyfriend back then. But I remember feeling so intimidated
Mhm.
by the gym and by going into the gym. And it's like, and it's so silly, but for me, it was like the sounds of the gym were also really intimidating. The,
Yeah,
you know, the weights dropping, people grunting and like, so that stuff was just so intimidating for me.
absolutely. Totally agree with
And
you. I felt the same
yeah,
way.
yeah. So when I was in college, when my daughters were born, I never went to the gym. Like I just did not go to the gym. After I started running, I went the route of doing a lot of yoga. So I did a lot of yoga, which was for my body was incredibly beneficial because it kept me flexible. It's just more mobility.
Mhm.
But as I got older, I realized my body needs more. Like my body needs something else. And not only is it that intuitively I felt like I needed something else, but the more research I did about how my body changes as I age and bone density and losing muscle mass and all of those things. I mean, that was when you're in your 20s, you don't think about that. And when you're in your 30s, at least for me in my 30s, raising children, that just like I was like, I don't have time for that. Like I barely have time for the running. And
Absolutely.
running is my priority. So that's what I'm gonna do more of. But the older I got, and again, the way just my body has changed and I can feel the changes, I realized, oh, in order for me to be a runner long term, I do need to strength train because my body is going to break down if I'm not giving it the tools to be strong.
Lean
And
muscle
that,
mass, right?
yeah,
Right.
the muscle
Mhm.
mass, like even just there was a period of time, and this is how I feel it in my body, and this is probably just me, no one else. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you felt it where once I started strength training consistently, I actually felt lighter in my
Mhm.
body when I
Mhm.
ran. Like I actually felt like that power making the runs feel easier. Now, I'm going to be honest, it took a long time for me to get there because the soreness of strength training doesn't always align with the goal, like with the running. Like I would go into some of my runs so sore from
Mhm.
strength training because not only was I doing moves maybe for the first time in a really long time, but I was also challenging myself, and I'm still challenging myself to lift heavier and to get out of that mindset of like, oh, 10-pound weights and let me do, and there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, it was like, I'm not going to do 50 bicep curls with 10-pound weights. Like, that's not what I need. Like, my body does not need that. Like, that's endurance for the muscles. And I already do enough endurance when I'm running. Like, I need to challenge my muscles to grow. And that was my experience with it. And then I had the London Marathon that I ran in 2023. I think it was mile 20, where it was my quads or something started acting up. And in the middle of the race, all I could think about was how I need to do more squats. Like that was my thought. Like I was like, my legs are giving out on me because they're not strong enough to do this. Like not at the level that I want them to move.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought process. I left that race thinking I'm in London. As soon as I get back to Miami, where I live, I'm going to get serious about my squats. Like that was the thought. Like of
That's hilarious.
all
That's
the
hilarious.
things.
Most people are thinking about post-race meals and all the
No,
things they're going to eat. And
no,
you're thinking about squats.
I was thinking about squats
Love
and I
it.
was thinking about what do I need to do to get stronger so that
Mm-hmm.
my legs have the ability to endure for longer. That was my thought. And I guess it's just how does that connect for you? Because for me, that connection between strength training and running is that I'm building muscles that are able to endure hard work, not
Yeah.
just endure long mileage and hours on my feet, but actually endure like me pushing them to their limit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, I talk to a lot of different athletes. And one of the things that I have talked to some of the athletes that may be new to strength training is you don't have to jump into the deep end of the pool, right? Strength training can be something as simple as doing 3 sets of 10 squats, 3 sets of lunges each leg, and doing maybe some, Romanian deadlifts, one-legged exercise for 3 times, 3 sets of 10, 3 times, and do those a couple of times a week. Let's start off with the shallow end of the pool, because if you jump into that deep end of the pool where you're so sore that you can't even, sit on the toilet the next day, it doesn't really make you want to go back to the gym and do it again. So I think it's important that if you haven't been strength training and you want to start doing it, or if you're new to running and you know you need to do this, or if you're a long-time runner and you're like, I should be doing this, you could start with something as simple as 3 exercises, 3 sets of 10 on Tuesday, Thursdays, or whatever days work for you, and start off like that. You don't have to go to a CrossFit gym and start flipping tires. So I think that's one thing. And I think you will see a difference just doing those things. But as you get better and stronger, it is good to keep going with that and start to add more to that and do more exercises. And the core work is so important too. We're talking a lot about squats, but I have found that I have really concentrated in the last couple of years on my core work. And I mean core by your shoulders to your knees, right? It's almost your whole body. That part of the body is so important in how your form is when you're running. And you're talking about wanting to run harder and wanting to do more with in the race. Well, if you are running more efficiently because you are stronger in your core, that is going to make you run faster and more and better. So I am living proof of that. I ran my first marathon in 2016. I ran my last marathon in March, and I PR'd in March. And I spent a lot of time strength training this summer, to the point where I felt like I was almost like a professional athlete. I was working so hard, but it really pays off when you do that, when you can improve that efficiency by making the parts of your body that are needed for running stronger and better, then you will get faster. And I think that if people realize that more, they would spend more time doing it, right? And so instead of jumping into the 10 foot into the pool, let's start off with just a few small things that you can change. And then we can get into the heavier, deeper things. Everybody's talking about, for women, you got to lift heavy, you got
Mhm.
to, take creatine, you got to eat all this protein. And I agree with all of that, but we don't have to do all of it on day one. So I think just when you're thinking about how do I start doing this, don't make it too hard on yourself. Start small, little changes. And one of the things I learned from another coach here in North Carolina is doing strength training on your run days. So I don't know, a lot of people run in the morning, a lot of people run in the evening. Personally, I run in the morning and I strength train in the evening. And I strength train on a run day because my off days are truly off days. Because if you're strength training on an off day, it's going to affect your run the next day. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I ran in the morning, and then I went to the gym last night and we lifted heavy on legs. Well, if I would have done that strength training exercise today and I have a run tomorrow, it's going to affect I have a midweek long run tomorrow. It's going to affect my midweek long run tomorrow. So running on and strength training on the same day, however you can figure it out, but give yourself space. Don't go run and do strength training 5 minutes later. Give yourself some time to recover in between there. That is the way you work it in. And again, it doesn't have to be for hours. You don't even have to go to a gym. You can go do it in your house. You can buy some kettlebells at TJ Maxx, or you can watch a lot of videos on the internet. There's a ton of them out there, but don't feel like you have to start doing the heaviest thing day one.
Yeah, and I think that's a parallel here is like if you're starting to run, right? You're not going to start running. I mean, some people will, but at least for me, when I get an athlete who is just starting to run, we usually start run walking just to get comfortable with it. I like to set them up with, for example, week 1, it'll be 30 minutes, right? 3 times a week, 30 minutes, and we're going to do a run walk. And I explain it to them. I'm like, we are just building the habit. That's all we're doing.
Absolutely.
We're just building the habit of you having Monday, Tuesday, Saturday being those run days so that you know to expect that those are the 3 days you're going to run. And then we slowly extend the time. So I think it's the same principles apply to strength training of what do you need to do in order to build the habit and have it become almost automatic. Like, Monday is your running and your strength training day. Tuesday is your rest day. Wednesday is a run and a strength training day, whatever it is, right? That's part of I find often that the struggles people have with new workout routines is establishing the routine of it. Like that's usually the hardest part. It's establishing the routine. So then you don't have to make any decisions about it. Because if not, there's decision fatigue. Like if Robyn, that on Monday you run in the morning and you lift weights in the evening, you don't even question it. You just know, oh, this is what happens on Monday. But if we're kind of like, oh, I don't know, it's hard to do it. So I want to go back a minute because I always like to just clarify it. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what is strength training and why is it important?
So for me, strength training means that you are using either your body weight or you can be using weights to do a movement that is going to give you a stronger muscle. So we're not doing cardio here. We're not running on the treadmill as fast as we can. That's not strength training. Step aerobics, pickleball, tennis, these are not strength training activities. Strength training involves using either your body weight or a dumbbell or a barbell. So these can be done, some people can't work out in their own house. They have to be in a group setting. That's fine. But that to me is what strength training represents, is using your weight of yourself or of external barbell or dumbbell. And your second question, I'm sorry.
Why is it important? Oops. I have no clue what happened there. Hopefully it's all okay. It should be okay. My Zoom just crashed unexpectedly.
Sorry.
It should be okay. So
okay.
The question was, why is strength training important to do?
Yeah. So I know for me, so I'm 58. I'll throw it out there. We are losing lean muscle mass every year of our life, especially as women. So even running, we do have denser bones because we're pounding the pavement or trails. That is helping us a lot immensely, but we are losing lean muscle mass every single day of our life. It's a foregone conclusion. So anything you can combat that with is going to be helpful. So going to the gym and creating that muscle that you need in order to stay, strong in your skeletal system And it's interesting. I heard a podcast yesterday about this doctor. I believe her name is Gabrielle Lyon, and she is actually doing studies on how improving your muscle health actually improves your cognitive health.
Mm.
So this is really interesting to me. So as we age and we're worried about our cognitive capabilities, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that, being strong in your muscles, your whole endocrine system is so important. So working out in the gym or at home or wherever it feels comfortable to you, and being able to maintain as much lean body mass as you can. And this also goes with, making sure you're getting your protein in, making sure you're getting your dietary needs met after these workouts. Because if you're going to go out there and do these workouts and you're not going to get your protein in or eat properly afterward, you're not really doing yourself any favors. So yeah, so to me, as women who are aging, lean muscle mass should be a priority, and running is not enough. It is definitely helping us with our heart and with our cardio capabilities, but it's not going to help that strength in your muscular system. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah, it does because again, I feel like my brain lately has been going into the
Mhm.
phase of life of like perimenopause and preparing for menopause. And
Sometimes.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I find that there's such a lack of information. Like I was telling someone the other day that I feel as a woman, I feel like a huge disservice has been done to me because there's so much medically and like healthcare wise attention that I got when I was reproductive, right? When
Mhm.
I was like having babies, there was so much like doctors and all this stuff going on. And now it's like with perimenopause and menopause and just aging, it's like, okay, but where are the resources now? Like who's there to talk to me now and like look after me and help
Mhm.
me figure out how do I navigate this time of life when again for me it's like once again my body is changing running that has been this constant for me for the past almost 13 years has felt really different because my body is changing and because how I need to approach running in order for me to be in the sport for longer has had to change. And for
Mhm.
me, those changes have been taking time, I guess, for a lack of a better way to put it, but taking time away from running and reinvesting that time into my strength training. So that was a mental shift for me too, because I feel like, we would hear it all the time that you have to prioritize the thing that you're trying to get better at, right? So if you're prioritizing your running, that's the thing that should happen first, or that's the thing that you've got to put all, you've got to really focus in on that. But it's like, oh, I'm prioritizing running. Like my brain says running's number one, but my body is saying, I need you to give me something else. I need you, if you want, like, if your heart is saying running, then we need to figure out something else. And that has been, I think, a challenging shift for me to know
Mhm.
that the way that I've trained is not the way, it's just not the way forward. So I guess if there's someone like me, I mean, you're talking to me right now, what words of encouragement or how can you what would you say to me? I guess it's just that. What would you say to me? Because you are talking to me right now.
Yeah, and I think, you epitomize a lot of runners out there. You have a busy life with children that you're raising. I don't know if you have parents in the picture too, but a lot of us have like kids and parents kind of that squeeze there. We're starting to feel the effects of getting into our middle age and of losing that lean body mass, and understanding that we love running, but we may need to do other things in order to keep doing this thing that we love to do, right? And I think it depends on the personalities. A lot of people like to run alone, and that's awesome. And maybe they want to strength train alone. But I know for me, I love to run with people. And so I found with strength training, I like to do it with other people. So I found a community in my strength training life that kind of is similar to my running life. So finding that community, those people that are going to do it with you, whether it's at a gym, I go to like a small little box gym here just around the corner from my house. Whether you go to Orange Theory and, knock it out in there, and there's a whole community there. I mean, gyms are really good about building those communities now, even small little gyms. There's a person I used to work out with just in the park here, and there was a whole community of folks that did that. So I think finding people who are doing that, or that community, is important, because that will make you accountable and keep you going. Right. Or if it's not something you want to do with other people, maybe you're intimidated to go into the gym, or, or you want to go to Planet Fitness because it's in your budget, but you're intimidated by the weights or whatever. I get it. I mean, it's definitely difficult, but I know they have trainers there that can probably get you started. The other option is to take to the internet, look for, I did this during COVID. I went out and found on YouTube, there's a bajillion videos out there. Even if it's just a few exercises, I would actually write down like workouts for myself to concentrate on when I was training during the pandemic, so that I could keep it going. And I just set an alarm on my clock, and my phone, to say, okay, at this time, you're going to do these things. And, we're very disciplined when it comes to our running. And you just have to apply that discipline into strength training, and you can make it fun. Put on some of your favorite music. For me, I like to work out to like hard rock, metalhead banging music. That's what it makes me motivated. Other people want to listen to like 90s rap or whatever. I mean, whatever gets you motivated to want, some people want to listen to a podcast while they work out. I mean, it's up to you, but I think you have to find what's going to help you do the work. Because once you start doing that work and you start seeing the results of that, then you're going to want to keep doing it. And you will see the results. You will become more efficient. It's amazing how many people told me when I really, really put the hammer down and strength train this last year, your posture is so much better when you're running. I used to have a limp. I don't have that limp anymore. People notice that about your running. They'll start to see it, and you think, okay. And what'll happen is your running will start to change, and you will feel different in your body too. And when it used to feel really hard on that 20-mile training run, it doesn't feel so hard anymore, right? And so when you get in that race and you are pushing yourself in the marathon or whatever distance you're doing, for me in the half marathon, it's always at mile 10, and the marathon, it's always at mile 20, right? You start to feel the pain and everything. And when you get to those milestones in the race, the pain isn't always there anymore, right? And you're like, I can push through this. I can do this. I had never ran an entire marathon until this year. I had always run walked, which is great. It's a great way to do a marathon. A lot of people BQ that way, but I had never actually run the entire time until this year. And I ran the entire race. And I felt good at mile 20, I was like, I can do this. Right. So I think it's a little bit of the body is stronger and all of that, but it's also mentally preparing you for when that race gets hard and you're thinking about all those workout sessions you did, all the training you did. That is part of it, right? And I have the strength to do this. I did all the squats. I did all the lunges. I did all the push-ups. I'm here. I got this, and I can finish this race, and I can crush it. So, I think just figuring out what motivates you is the most important thing. And if you haven't done it before, don't jump in and do something that's going to make you super sore. You're going to be sore, but you don't have to be so sore you can't walk. So one time we went out and did lunges around the entire track. 400 meters of lunges. Don't do that. That you will hate your life for the next week. And it's going to be hard to run. So don't do things like that are crazy. Just kind of think moderately at the beginning, just like with running. You want to start off, moderately and build your way up.
Yeah. So with that, the question I have is, for people who are listening, how do they incorporate strength training into their week? You've already given us the tip of have your run days be your strength training days as well. But for people, I guess it's maybe there's a two-parter, right? Because what you said was that you strength train on your run days. And in doing that, your rest days are true rest days. So when we're looking at a week, right? We're looking at a week and I always like to give the half marathon as kind of as kind of our model, because that is a very popular distance, that a very popular distance that a lot of people do. So if someone is training for a half marathon, and let's assume they've got their, I'm going to throw some information at you, right? So let's
Okay.
assume it's half marathon training and they are running 4 days a week and they
Okay.
have one guaranteed rest day.
Okay.
How would you structure that?
So I think if you're in the midst of a training program, that your strength training should only be 2 days, maybe three a week. So if you have them doing an easy run, so say they have an easy run on Monday, they've got a like kind of a tempo run on Wednesday, they're doing an easy run on Friday, and then their long run on Saturday, right? So they got Tuesday, Thursday right now are kind of free days. So if you have them, and we'll figure maybe one of those Tuesday or Thursday is a active recovery day. So if you have them doing that, I would have on the Monday, if they run in the morning, do their morning run, do their strength workout that evening, and then on Wednesday, either Wednesday or I would do Wednesday because Friday or because it's too close to the long run day on Saturday. Wednesday, after their tempo run in the morning, they could do a strength workout that night. Now, if that doesn't work, because a lot of people are like, I got a family, my husband's not going to let me take all that much time out. That's okay. If you have to do it on your 2 days like Tuesday or Thursday instead because you only have the morning, just make sure that you do it in the morning because you're going to have that run again on Wednesday. So if you're going to do a strength workout, do it on like a Tuesday morning first thing so that you have that time to recover before your strength workout. And I wouldn't do super heavy leg workout. If you're going to do that on like the next day, you have to do a midweek long run or a midweek tempo run. If it's an easy run, you can maybe do a little more heavy in the legs, but I would definitely that would kind of depend on the training that you have set up for them on that. If they have to do the strength training on Thursday, so they've got to run on Friday and Saturday, so it's a little bit double back to back, a little bit lighter strength workout. Maybe it's more core related, doing push-ups, sit-ups, things like, associated with their core, lighter in the legs, then that would be, an alternative if they couldn't do it on their run days. The other option is you could do something on like Saturday after the long run or Sunday morning. You could do something. You just want to be cognizant of your run days and don't do anything super heavy right before you're going to do a long run. So that's kind of what I would recommend. I don't know how, what do you think? Is that a training schedule that sounds about right? Or how do you have them working their
Yeah,
training?
I mean, I would suggest the same. And I just want to highlight something that you said that's really, really important. It's the recovery time between workouts.
Mm-hmm.
So you had said if you're running, not running, but you had said if you're going to do your strength training Tuesday, but then you're running Wednesday, do the strength workout in the morning. And this is something that I feel like people don't fully grasp because they just think, oh, strength training Tuesday, and then I'm doing my run on Wednesday. There's a big difference between giving yourself a solid 24 hours of recovery between versus you're going to run Wednesday morning, but you go to the gym Tuesday night. You've just cut your recovery period in half. So your body has less time to integrate the work that you've done
Mm-hmm.
between those two efforts. So I just wanted to highlight that because that
Yeah.
was an excellent point that you made about looking at your schedule and understanding what is the recovery time
Mm-hmm.
between the different efforts, because that it's if you're working out in the morning, if your workouts are in the morning, you have an entire day of fueling your body, of resting your body, of giving your body everything it needs to keep going. Whereas if you're doing your strength training at night, you've got like this very small window of
Mm-hmm.
getting what you need before you're pushing your body again. So I would do something similar. Depending on the people, because I know I work with a lot of people that the morning time is all they've got,
Right.
all they've
Mm-hmm.
got. And there there are differences, and you alluded to that in terms of how you approach strength training. based on where you are in your running training. So if you are training for a race specifically, that's a different timeline than if you're just base building and you're keeping up your
Absolutely.
running. The like you can for me it's like, oh, if we don't have any running goals, let's go crazy on the strength
Yes.
training.
Yes.
Let's really lift heavy. Like if we're not trying to PR, if we are unstructured with our running, that's when we can really push the envelope with the strength training. But once we do get into training, and there's a big difference between, in my opinion, oh, we're at the beginning of training versus we're peak weeks of training versus we are in our taper week, different approaches to strength training there. So it's
Absolutely.
all, there's
Absolutely.
lots of like little moving parts, but I find that most of the time it's just important to get into the habit of doing something. And I wanted to say, because you mentioned, I just wanted to add my 2 cents here about having a plan. And I
Mhm.
was going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you this, and then you'll tell me more. In terms of like going to the gym and feeling intimidated, again, as I shared, I was someone that in college I never went. And the times I did go to the gym when I was in my 20s, it's because I went with my husband and I kind of just like followed what he was doing.
Right.
And then, um, and then I had 2 summers ago, I was on the west coast of Florida and it was just the girls and we needed something to do during the day. So we started going to the gym together. And let me tell you, that was really empowering because it was just me and my 2 girls, or my 2 girls and myself, whatever, going to the gym. And I was like, okay, if I want them to feel comfortable in a gym, like it's going to start with me. But what made it easier for me was that I went to the gym with a plan. I
Mhm.
had my favorite trainer on Instagram that I love all her workouts. And
Mhm.
I would pick just one of her workouts. Oh, am I going to do a lower body day? Cool. I would go to her page, pick one of her lower body workouts. I know for myself, more than 30 minutes, I get bored and
Right.
I can't. So I would find her workouts that are 30 minutes long, take my headphones, and it's like I had my own personal trainer with
Mhm.
me. I would set my phone up, I would listen to her cueing, I would get my weight, I would do it, and then I was in and out. And that was so much helpful, like just so much helpful, more helpful than if I would have gone to the gym and
I
been
love
like,
that.
okay,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm working out legs, like where are all the leg machines? Like here it was like, nope, this is what I'm doing. And I find for me personally, I am more confident in the gym in the free weight area
Mhm.
than in the machine weights. And that's partly because half the time I don't know how to operate the machines
Yeah,
and I
those
can't like
diagrams aren't always the best instruction.
no, and I am 5'2", and for me 5'2" is sometimes really short for a lot of the machines. Like the
Yeah,
chairs
yeah.
just don't go forward enough or high enough or whatever the case is. So me personally, I feel more confident going into the free weight area and just grabbing my weights and creating a little corner for myself with the weights
Hmm.
and doing
Hmm.
that. So that was something that worked for me. So when you said have a plan, I'm like, yes, that is what totally changed it for me. Is because I would go into the gym with my video ready, and as soon as I got there, I would do it. And there's a little, a 3-minute warm up and a cool down that are included in that 30 minutes. And then there's different, blocks. It helps provide a structure that if I were to do it, which I'm sure I could do it, but then I would get too much into my head about it of
Right.
like, am I doing enough? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it properly? Whereas like, no, 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 someone else already thought of that. Like they already thought of the structure of the workout and I'm just going into the gym to execute that workout. So that's something that helped me. But I'm curious, in your opinion, for those of us that do feel intimidated by the
Hmm.
gym, what
Hmm.
are other things that we can do to minimize that
Yeah,
intimidation?
yeah. So I made a couple notes here because I one of the things that you said when you said you put on your headphones, I feel like when you put on headphones, it's like you get braver, you know? It's like you don't care. you're in your own little world, and you start, I don't know, for me, I just don't really even notice what's going on around me anymore, or even notice if anybody is noticing me. It's like it's so weird how putting on headphones can do that. I used to travel about 80% of the time for my job. So I was in hotel gyms a lot. And it's so easy when you're in a hotel to just, blow off going to the gym because, they're crappy gyms. There's, like two weights there. What am I going to do in there? And you would be surprised how many times I would go in these hotel gyms and see women with their headphones on and their phones doing little workouts. I'm like, you go. I mean, that's amazing, right? So I think that's an awesome way to get started. One thing I do want to mention, because this may come up, is delayed onset muscle soreness. We were talking about, working out on days that we're not running, and DOMS is a thing, right? I have this happens to me a lot where I don't get sore until 2 days after the workout. So that is also something to be cognizant of as a runner. Some people get sore the
Mhm.
next day, some people get sore 2 days later. Usually if you're running on that, next day, you will work out a lot of that soreness and you won't be as sore after your run. And sometimes you can even feel a little stronger. It's kind of a weird thing, but that is something that happens to a lot of us. So just kind of something to keep in mind. But I think for those folks who are intimidated by the gym or they don't know what to do, there are so many resources out there now. So, now they have, the Peloton, and you can, do all these workouts with these folks. I see this all the time all over the internet. Like you said, there's, Instagrammers out there and YouTubers out there that are providing workouts. If you don't want to do a video, you can, see diagrams of like how to, do things. There's all kinds of tools out there that are available now that when I was first going to the gym weren't there. I think doing it with a buddy or a friend is always, if it's your husband, your kids, your next door neighbor, whoever is going to help keep you motivated, if that's a problem for you or you feel like you
Mhm.
need somebody to do it with, get your fellow runners, the people that you run with, get them to do stuff with you. It's funny, I run with a group here, kind of a core group. We all live in different parts of town. So it's hard for us to go to the gym together, but we all have started going to whatever gym that is near our house. And I think we talk about it and it helps us to keep going because we talk about it on our runs, right? So getting that motivation from all the areas where you need it. And, I had an athlete tell me the other day, I can't work out at home. It just doesn't happen if in my house. And I'm like, well, then get out of your house, go where
Yeah.
you have to go. If you have to go to a friend's house and work out in their garage, I mean, do what you have to do that will help you, achieve these goals you want to achieve with strength training. And if you still can't do all of that, then, it's okay if you don't want to strength train. I get it. It's hard. It's hard to fit it all in. We joke all the time. It's so hard to fit it all into our lives here, but you will see a significant difference if you do. And I think even if you can only take 10 or 15 minutes out of your day to do it, and if you don't have time to do it on your off running days, do it. It's not ideal, but do it right after you get done running.
Yeah.
Take 15 minutes and drop down and do some squats and lunges and some RDLs and call it. That's better than nothing. So if you have to squeeze it in after a run, that's the way it goes. That's better than nothing.
Yeah, I've had those days where I know what my day looks like and I'm not going to have time to do it at any other point. And it's I do my run, I have my recovery drink, and then I go into a strength workout. And sometimes that's just what it is
Yeah.
and that's okay. And I think it's what I'm hearing you say is very much so giving ourselves the permission to be flexible with how it looks like. Doesn't have to look perfect. It just has to look like we're doing something.
Mhm.
And I want to point out that you even said it's 15 minutes, right? It's not we're not looking for a lot of time, which I think that's part of the intimidation factor as well, is
Right.
thinking I have to spend a lot of time in the gym or I have to do a lot. And it's like really you don't have to do a lot. You had a blog post recently about the four moves, like what are the four things you should do, and it was like, yeah, okay, your squats, your lunges, planks, and then I forget what was the fourth one.
The one where you're on I can't remember what it's called, where you're lifting your pelvic.
Bridges. glute
Bridges, yes.
bridges.
Yes,
I'm like,
that
wait, now
that
that
one.
you're saying it, yes.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I'm like, it's so true because it's like if we are stripping it down, totally
Mhm.
stripping it down to the absolute basics, it's getting your legs to move. It's doing even in your lunges, you're working single leg stuff. You
Yeah,
can always progress. And even
absolutely.
with my athletes, I always tell them, I'm like, we start off body weight. Just start off body weight to get comfortable in the movements. And once you feel really comfortable with the movements, then you add weight, right? Add a little bit of weight, see how you feel. Can you handle it? Can you manage it? Does your form shift? Like, what's going on? Like, how are you feeling in your body as you're incorporating new moves? So,
And
I
don't
really,
worry about how deep your squat is or how deep your lunge is, making sure your form, because the last thing we want you to do is get injured while you're strength training, right?
mhm.
You know, that's a risk you have at the gym. Like me, you trip over the bench or you trip over something, but not worrying so much about how deep your squat is compared to somebody else's. Don't worry about that. Keep your chest and head up, no bending over while you're squatting. So these kind of things, you know, I know a lot of moms out there are picking up their kids. These are 40, 50-pound kids are picking up and carrying around. I mean, you're carrying weight already. So you can do these things. You can strength train and spend 15 minutes after you run if that's all you have to do a few moves to get you a little bit stronger. And then, you know, if you're not training for a race, we were talking about this earlier, if you're not in the midst of a half marathon or marathon or 5K training plan, whatever it may be, and you're just base building, kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of base building, keeping my, mileage up. I strength train about 3 to 4 days a week now, and I love it, right? And I lifted heavy last night in my legs because I knew I wasn't going to run today. So, and I have a run tomorrow, but I'm not super worried about it because I'm not in a big time training block right here. I'm pacing a race. I'm pacing at a pace that's slower than I normally run, so I don't really have to worry so much about, okay, I'm going to really push myself in this race to go the distance. So being able to adjust that, when you're not training for something and maybe your running's kind of backing off a little bit, as women that are aging, think about adding those more strength training moves. Now, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you may not need to do that yet. But as you reach into your 40s and your 50s and beyond, it starts to become more important than even the running. And there's a lot of studies out there. I know you've probably heard of Dr. Stacy Sims. She talks
Mhm.
a lot about women and strength. And just because men are doing it doesn't mean it's right for us. So I think that's really important to kind of remember that, just because your husband can go out and do whatever doesn't mean that that's going to work for our bodies. So just kind of keeping that in mind, when you're doing your strength training, if you're in a training block, be careful. You don't have to overdo. If you're not in a training block, you can start to do heavier, more aggressive things in your strength training and see what you can accomplish. But you just, when you're working with your coach, make sure that you guys are talking about that, about your strength training plan and how you're going to incorporate that into your challenging runs, your tempo runs, your track workouts, things
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, it's I always laugh when I think about it because my husband has recently, uh, maybe over the last year or so, he's started to run. And it's not like he's not running because he wants to do races. It's more just he's running because he doesn't want to die. Like it's that. It's like a cardiovascular. He does not
Yeah.
like running. We have a treadmill. He gets on that treadmill and he's like, it's because I want to see my daughters grow up. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Like he's running
That's a
for
good reason.
cardiovascular. Absolutely. And I look at him and he runs, I think he strength trains maybe 3 or 4 days a week. He runs maybe 2 or 3 days, kind of depends
Mhm.
on like he won't do both on the same days, right? Like
Right.
it's either he's strength training or he's running. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, you do so much less than I do, and you've got abs. And here I am, not with abs, and I'm doing all the stuff. Like I'm eating the
Yes.
protein, I'm doing the strength training. It's just our bodies are different, and hormonally,
Yeah.
I'm
Very
very
different.
different from his body. But I'm like, that's just not fair. Like that
No.
is not fair. But so I feel what you're saying in terms of like just because my husband's doing it doesn't mean I can do it, and it doesn't mean that it's what makes sense for me either way. But I do have my moments where I'm like, I work out more than you, and yet you have the abs and I do not. I
Well,
don't.
there's going to be those unicorns out there, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's a few of them that I know here in our running community that are women who are in their 60s that look absolutely incredible, lots and lots of muscle tone, and they don't strength train at all. And there's those unicorns out there, and they never get injured, and they, can run ultra marathons. Um, that's not the norm. And I think as runners, we put ourselves in those envelopes with people,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget that that is not normal. And those
Yeah.
folks are definitely outliers. So we have to be careful that when you are in this situation, well, so and so doesn't have to strength train and they're running ultras and they never get injured and they're doing all that. Well, their body is different than yours. Even if you're the same age, same sex, all the things, you're eating just as well as they are. Our bodies are all different. And so we all need different things. And it's frustrating because I wish I was one of those unicorns like that. And I
Yeah.
feel like I have to work so hard because I am not naturally an athletic person. I have to work a lot harder than other people, and it's not fair. But it is what it is, and
Yeah.
we want to do this. That's what you have to commit to doing. And it's really about your commitment and what you want out of running and what you want out of your health.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because I definitely know people like that they don't strength train at all. And I'm like, how though? I don't understand. Like, what are you
I know
doing?
it's not fair.
And I'm like, yeah, no, like my body, it's anytime something starts to ache in my body, my intuition says I need to start doing more of this strength training. And
Yeah.
that's what happened to me in London, right? Where it's like, really, I'm not, that's just where my thoughts
And
go.
I feel like if one more physical therapist tells me I have a weak glute med, I'm gonna just lose it, right? It's like I have worked so hard on that glute med, right? It's just natural that we're weak in the glute med. Like, I don't want to hear that
Yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah. I mean, it's hard and it's such a our bodies are our bodies are like symphonies, right? There's all these different parts to it and everything connects. And it's like, oh, if you have a weak glute med, then maybe there's something in your hamstring, or maybe there's something in your lower back. Like it all connects
it does.
together. And
Yeah.
we can never, it's really hard to isolate one thing without affecting everything else. So I I wanted to take this as we're winding down. I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about your book and what's going on with that.
Yes. So thank you. I completed the World Marathon Majors Challenge this past spring in Tokyo, which was amazing. It took me 8 years. Started in 2016. Had no intention of. I never even heard of the World Marathon Majors. I didn't know what they were. I just decided to run the London Marathon for my 50th birthday. And I was training with somebody who was running the World Majors. And I was like, well, that sounds like a pretty awesome goal. So I decided to start doing it as well. And during the course of those 8 years, I had a lot of life challenges. My husband was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 throat cancer. We had a major hurricane come through our town right when I was leaving to go to Berlin to run the Berlin Marathon. We had the pandemic right in the midst of running the Boston Marathon, and it was canceled for the first time in 124 years. And then when I was set to start running Tokyo, I had major knee problems and really had to stop running for a while. So a lot of trials and tribulations to get through those world majors, but I started, writing a book about it probably right around the time I was about in the fourth or fifth race. I had kept a lot of logs and a lot of diaries, and I thought, I'm going to put this together and see what happens with it. And so, yeah, I've turned it into a book and hoping to have that published later this year. And super excited about it, and excited to hopefully motivate others to realize that kind of no matter what is going on in your life, that you can still set goals for yourself, and it's important to take care of yourself when you're in the midst of a lot of crisis going on around you. And running really saved my sanity during that time,
Yeah.
as it does a lot of folks. So yeah, I started the process, and it's being edited now, and hopefully it'll be out in a few months.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm
Thank
sure that has been a different kind of marathon to
you.
get your books
Yes.
together into editing and whatever drafts and back and forth of it. So,
Mhm.
congratulations on that. And we'll make sure to look out for it as the
Mhm.
year progresses. So, I have like a few more questions.
Sure, sure.
Next question is, where can we find you and how can we best connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, beachy_runner. So I am a pretty active on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn under Robyn Godfrey. You can find me on there. I'm on Facebook as well under my own name. So probably Instagram would be the best way to find me and just connect. I love to post our Monday morning runs. We run at the beach every Monday with my running group,
I love
and
that.
we love to post sunrise photos on there and just talk about running. And I do a blog semi regularly. It's hard to fit it all in, but I try to work on a blog to help other runners just get better at different parts of just life, running, whether it be strength training, recovery, running in the cold, all the different kind of things we all face. So you can find me on Instagram. It's probably the best way.
Awesome. What are you most excited about your running for 2025?
Wow. I think for me, it's just being with, I call them my best running friends. And we have another group called Cool Kids Running Group. So just being with my running group. We like to go on trips together. We're doing a trail race out in Grayson Highlands in southwestern Virginia in May. Did it last year, did the 50K. Thought I was going to die. This year, I decided to do the 25K. Looking forward to that. It's a really beautiful, special place. And just helping other runners get better. I love to pace, pacing a couple half marathons. Um, just started coaching. So I'm just hoping to get other runners into the sport and keep them motivated and keep them running. I get a lot of, you were talking about with pacing, I get a lot of moms that are coming back from having a baby, which is awesome. They want to get back into running again and get fit. It's so fun to see them meet their goals and be excited. And the best thing you could ever hear as a pacer is you helped me PR. And so, or even if it's just it's my post PR from having a baby, or something
Yeah,
along those lines. So, um, will I run more marathons? I don't know. I tried to go for Sydney, but I didn't get in. But you never know. I might try again next year to see if I can get into Sydney and do the seventh world major.
yeah,
Summer training here is brutal. But yeah, as you know, living in Miami, it's summer training is tough. But
yeah,
yeah, I think just going on running adventures. To me, running is just about adventure, seeing new things, new places. That was the reason why I took on the world majors. I mean, running in the most iconic cities in the world, that just sounded like the best adventure ever. Trail running kind of gives you that same thing, that sense of adventure. It's like being a kid again.
yeah.
So I think just keeping the adventures going, as my friend Brad says, keep running around like a third grader at recess, just keeping it young.
I love that. I love that. Venture is one of my big words. So
Mhm.
just hearing that makes my heart happy. All right. Final question is, what are your final words for us?
Well, I think for me, I would say that if you are contemplating strength training, definitely do it. Don't worry about getting bulky or getting too heavy. You won't. You'll get faster, you'll get stronger. It will improve the way you look while you're running. And you will reap the rewards tenfold just by doing a few simple moves each week, and just find a way to motivate yourself and make it happen. You're committed to running, so commit to strength training as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for
You.
that. Robyn, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here with me and for having this discussion with me. Everyone, we will see you around. I don't even know. We'll see you on our next running adventures. All right. Bye.